radical party.
Hey everyone, and welcome to the Darkling Chronicles. It's been quite a long time since I've done this podcast and updated it, and I apologise for that. The only excuse I have is that life has been crazy this year, as I'm sure it has for most of you as well. I hope everyone out there is doing okay, holding on in there. We've got this. Remember, good things around the corner. Yes, annoying positivity. However, this is a ghost podcast, so let's get creepy. Now, the last story I told you was Tonya's story about the pub she used to live in, and it was called The Pool Room Sounds. I have since released a book called Real Ghost Stories. It's time for some ghost tea, because I just love spinning the ghost tea so much to you all. I absolutely love it. I live for this stuff. It was recommended to me to do a book by one of my lovely followers, Darren. I actually have experience putting books together, which is something you might not know. So I did it quite quickly actually, because I'm a designer as well. So I got it done really quick, and I cannot believe the amazing feedback that I've had. If you want to grab a copy, I will link it in the description of this podcast episode. This is story 20. If you have the book, you can have a little look as well, and it's called The Haunted Lands of Hartland. So Justin says, this story is my favourite experience, and it happened in my late teens whilst teaching my friend to drive at night. 4 of us, 1 driver, myself and 2 friends, drove into the countryside around Hartland in Devon, just driving around the many single-track lanes in the darkness. The first thing that happened was at a site called Bow Bridge, where the car suddenly grounded to a halt and stalled right on the bridge. Thinking Roscoe, the driver, had simply stalled it, he restarted the engine, only to find all of the gauges on the dashboard rising rapidly to the max petrol, temperature and rev count. Not thinking too much of it, we headed further into the darkness, watching the gauges return to normal. About a mile down the road, we all got very disorientated and started trying to figure out if we were lost or not. And this is where it gets very, very weird. As you do when you're lost, I was trying to keep track of things on the route. I remembered seeing a chapel on the left side of a sweeping right-hand corner, very vivid, with the car lights exposing it in the darkness, plain as day. It looked very old, very real. Then out of the blue, the car started to break down again and lose power. It spooked us into turning around to head back home. On the way back, I expected the chapel to be on the other side of the road since we were retracing our journey, and I was looking out for it. I mentioned to Roscoe that we hadn't passed the chapel yet and maybe we were lost. We all thought it was strange that he didn't see it. He wouldn't believe us. Everyone in the car had seen it except the driver. That's when we got the heebie-jeebies and headed at speed towards town. The next morning, the other 2 passengers phoned me immediately and brought up the chapel sighting, not quite believing Roscoe had missed it. Later that day, we all met up and Roscoe, out of curiosity, asked the 3 of us to draw the chapel. He wanted to see if we could jog his memory or maybe catch us out. To our amazement, all 3 drawings looked exactly the same, detailed perfectly in every way. It was a small wooden structure with 2 very simple arched windows. You can imagine the goosebumps when the drawings matched. I now live in the area and have been past that site many times, but there's simply nothing there at all, just a wooded area. But on checking the earliest maps of the area from the 15 to 1600s, there is, in fact, a chapel. Right there, just outside a village hamlet called Long Furlong. I later found out that Bow Bridge is haunted by the Blue Lady and that many people have seen blue spheres of light above the bridge. We may have missed the spheres of light, but I've never had a car quite behave like that before. I love this story for so many reasons, and one being that feeling when you just passed your test and you have your friends in your car and you're going out and you're doing bits and bobs. I just think that feeling is so good. Like, driving just gets boring as you get older, though I do love driving. But, you know, the novelty with driving around with your mates. I never taught any of my mates to drive, though. I think that probably would have been a bad idea. But the fact that the gauges went out of control, and there's a lady known to be on this bridge. Like, I'm sad you didn't see the blue spheres, Justin, but it sounds like it was proper creepy. And seeing something that you can all draw and confirm, not even trying to make it the same, like, that's pretty strong evidence, isn't it, that this chapel was there. I love, like, a time slip situation. I don't know how it's happening, but I'm receiving so many of these stories at the moment. And I'm here for it because the unexplainable is just so fascinating, isn't it? It just opens up, like, doors in your mind where you're like, what is going on here? Let's get into the next story. This is story 21 in the book, and it's called The Haunted Cauliflower. Now, this story is from Helen, who follows my TikTok page. So massive shout out to Helen. She supports me. She has a chat with me. I love talking to people on my page. It is just one of my pleasures of life. So she says, when I was 20, I left home and moved in with 2 friends. A few minutes from our flat was a pub called the Cauliflower. It was a very old historical looking building, but we didn't take much notice of that because there were live bands at the weekends and it would get absolutely rammed. We used to go there quite often before we moved into our flat, but only on a Friday and Saturday night. Once we lived nearby, we started going at quieter times too, and it had a totally different feeling. We were in there one afternoon and there was no one else around. Even though it was dead quiet, I said to one of my friends, I feel like there's a lot of men at the bar in old-fashioned clothing. She replied, that's because the Cauliflower is haunted. By this point, my friend had got a job there and had been told by the pub manager, who lived upstairs on her own, that she had panic buttons installed around the flat just in case of any disturbances. One night, the police turned up after she'd gone to bed, responding to one of the buttons being pressed. The manager told them that she hadn't touched anything because she'd been asleep, but once they checked, it turned out the button that had been triggered was the one underneath her bedside table, right next to where she was sleeping. At one point, I got a job there myself. She's put in brackets, only 3 nights, as I quickly realised I prefer the other side of the bar. I was serving a customer a pint and glasses were stored on the shelves beneath the bar. Right next to where I was standing, a pint glass suddenly flew off the shelf all by itself. No other bar staff were anywhere near me and the customer definitely hadn't leaned over. I'd have seen them. But here's the weirdest part. The floor around both sides of the bar was covered in old Victorian tiles. That glass should have hit the floor and smashed, but it never landed. I looked everywhere. There was no glass, no shattered pieces, nothing. I asked the customer I'd been serving, did you see that? He looked just as confused and said, yeah. Now that story is very creepy. I tried to do waitressing and bar work, it just weren't for me. I just kept dropping things on people. Just too clumsy. I'm more of a creative type, me. Organised chaos. I love that story. I probably would never go back there to even have a drink again after that. Because where the hell did that glass go? I just don't understand. I honestly find this fascinating. How can it show in our reality and then disappear? Like, I can wait to die, but I also can't wait to die in a way to see what on earth is happening here. The only sad part is I probably won't have enough energy to come back and tell you all what happened. So, you know, anyway, probably shouldn't die yet. I'm only 36. Hopefully I've got a lot of life yet, but love the story, Helen. It's a brilliant one. So let's go on to another story because there's time. We've got time. We're just chilling together, aren't we? It's fine. This is story 22, The Man on the Stairs. So this is actually from a lady called Sarah, who I call Welsh Sarah, who I absolutely love. She has followed the page on TikTok for a long time. We have little chats and stuff. She says that the hospital she works at, they listen to my TikToks on their break. And that just warmed my heart because it's really weird when you're a content creator. You just don't think anyone's listening. You kind of just talking to yourself. Obviously you engage with people on TikTok and stuff, but for podcasts, you can see numbers, but it's strange that your people listening to me just talk about ghost stories. It's very odd. Nonetheless, I absolutely love it, and I'm very grateful that you're here. Thank you for this ghost story, Sarah. And she says, I work with a girl called Zoe, and she sees things. When I say things, I mean weird stuff that can't really be explained. A few weeks ago, we were working together, which is rare, so it was really nice to catch up. We were on the top floor, she's put in brackets, that's the important bit, and sitting in the nurse's office after finishing paperwork. I was chatting away and she suddenly looked towards the fire door and said, "Who's that?" Now, behind the door are stairs leading down to the next floor. I said, "What do you mean? There's nobody there." She answered, totally casually, "Yeah, a tall guy just came down the stairs." Then I must have gone pale or something because she looked at me and went, "Oh shit, there's no stairs to come down, is there?" I tried to brush it off and said, "It's dark, there's loads of shadows, it's probably just one of those things." But literally as the words came out of my mouth, the fire door banged. The way it always does when someone opens the door above and walks down the stairs, never when someone's coming up. I jumped up and opened the fire door, fully expecting a colleague to jump out and wind us up. Nope, no one was there. But the weirdest part, we could suddenly smell a strong scent of cigars or tobacco. No one on shift that night smoked. We were rattled, but we tried to carry on. Then at exactly 3 a.m, it happened again. Zoe swore she saw a man dressed in dark clothes standing on the stairs. Needless to say, I take the lift now. Every single time. I don't blame you, Sarah. That's terrifying. Imagine being Zoe and having to see that. Good God. Do you know what? I don't think I could actually cope if I saw something properly. I wouldn't mind if I was with someone. But not on my own, not in a situation like that. Knowing there's no stairs upstairs to come down from. That's just not okay, is it? If you've seen a ghost or you have a ghost story and you absolutely love ghost stories, time slips or anything like me, and you've got one to share, I would really love to hear from you. You can send me an email at thedarklingchronicles25@gmail.com. You can find me on TikTok at thedarklingchronicles and send me a message by going on my profile and clicking message. Or I'm going to start posting more on my Instagram because it needs to catch up. It's very, very far behind my TikTok. I just thought one channel was enough, But now I'm going to just take the plunge and manage them both. So you can find me at the Darkling Chronicles on Instagram. Please do give me a follow if you find me. Come and have a little chat. I love talking about all things ghosts. I try and make time for as many people as I can. I've got 6,000 followers nearly on TikTok at the moment, but I feel like I've got a really good community on there, and I talk to as many people as I can about all of this creepy stuff because it honestly is something I'm really interested in and I absolutely love. I hope you enjoyed the ghost stories. I'm going to be releasing more podcasts, talking about more stories. I will even go off-piste in some of these and maybe talk about a popular ghost story or some topical thing that we're all going to love, basically. That's what you can rely on me for. I promise that, okay? Come back here, follow this page. You can leave me comments on Spotify now if you want. You can put in some requests. If you've got a ghost story, write it in the comments. We'd all love to read it. But listen, take care of yourself. If no one's told you today you are enough, you are worthy, this is a ghost podcast, but it's also a feel-good podcast, okay? This is what I'm about. You're enough, you're worthy, you have everything to offer this world. And if you have a ghost story, you have everything to offer me. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one.